Hi everyone, Nathan here from JS Powersports, and I'm going to do a quick video here on why you may not have spark. Now, this ski is a 21 Krash 1200cc with all new electronics in the back here, and an ECU, which is separate than the old 997s, which had a CDI and was in a plexiglass box back here, much like the Yamaha systems and setups. But some parts of this may sound extremely elementary, so feel free to fast forward if you need to. I'll try to talk fast. First off, did you try just swapping new spark plugs? I've literally had people drive 7 hours away, one way, to get here for us to swap the spark plugs, and their ski fires right up. No joke. Okay, next thing. You have to have a strong battery. I cannot say this enough. We've got plenty of videos out about our batteries. This is 680 cold cranking amps. What happens when you start to turn the ski over, and that means the engine is turning over, it drops voltage in this cable. And when you test it back here at the starter solenoid, you may see it drop down to 10.5 volts. Anything less than that, and you're risking heating up electrical components like starters and stuff and burning them up. You need to have that much voltage and amperage back there, turning the stuff over really, if this engine should turn over really fast and start right up. Some of the engines, some of the jet skis on the market and so on, if the magnetic pickup doesn't turn over at least 400 RPM, or sometimes they might even be higher than that, it won't even produce spark. So you're really wasting your time trying to get something to start if you have a dead battery and you're sitting there just, you know, my sound effects, romp on the starter, and it's not going. Charge the battery or put a new battery in it that's strong enough to power up your entire electrical system and make it run good and have it be healthy. Now let's talk about a couple other things that we see sometimes. A lot of people grab what's called like an ultimate lanyard, and these do work fantastic. But there's some generic ones out there, some cheap Chinese junk on Amazon and eBay. People pick them up for a couple bucks. They don't realize that this is just a little bit thinner than what they had before. And now it doesn't pull up this kill switch plunger as high as it needs to pull it up. It sits down here where it's pressing on the button, and it'll never start. I see this with multiple brands of jet skis all the time with those cheap piece of junks that people buy online. So don't do it. Buy a known good one, or measure the thickness on your original one and make sure that whatever aftermarket one you use has the proper thickness. Now, some of these, the hole in the inside is drilled at a different diameter. Like if you were to put the Kawasaki one into the Yamaha, then you go to do a trick and the thing's just going to pull out. The reason I bring up Kawasaki is because there are Kawasaki jet skis out there that you can have the lanyard out and hit the start button, and it'll turn the ski over. And people will wear their battery out trying to start their ski. Meanwhile, the lanyard's still sitting in their hand, or it's attached to their life jacket. We see this stuff all the time. All right, now let's get into a little more technical stuff here. If you've got a good battery, it's turning the ski over super fast, you have good spark plugs in here, and you're still not getting spark, you're probably going to be looking at either a faulty start-stop switch or the wiring. And here's your start-stop switch up here. But if this wiring gets pulled or worn out, or the switches inside are broken or go bad or get water or get corroded, then sometimes it doesn't do anything. Now we have a completely different video on how to test your start-stop switch. But basically, like on this one here, it's way back here in this corner. The newer models, a lot of them are more up towards the front, about right in here. But you can unplug this right back here, pull these wires up, stick some paper clips in there, hook it up to a multimeter. I am not doing a class on how to run a multimeter. You're going to need to do some studying on that, or have a good buddy show you how to do that. But you can test out all parts of the start-stop switch. Keep in mind that you're going to need to have a lanyard in here on a lot of different machines, so that when you press the start button, it will work. Now, when you're testing it for grounding out on the start button, on the start-stop switch, which we have a video for, you're going to test two parts of it. The lanyard's going to be in here. You're going to press the stop button. Then the next part of the test is you're going to pull the lanyard out, and it should go do the same thing that the stop button does. Keep in mind, you've got to have this in on a lot of machines before you hit start, and start actually does something. Other machines, it's kind of a safety feature, but you're actually able to put your lanyard in here, hold your stop button, and press on your start button at the same time. The engine will turn over, but it will not produce spark. This is good if you're trying to clear out a flooded engine or something. On certain models, not every model will be like that. Now, if you have a Krash pre-21 997 with the old electrical box, I can tell you right now, basically from the factory doesn't send them with batteries because it is a hazardous material deal, and it's a mess. They don't send them that way. So they were recommending this Motobat battery, which was, I don't know, somewhere between 200 and 300 cold cranking amps. It was very underpowered for the 997 with the 180 pounds of compression on the cylinder. It just didn't turn over the skis fast enough to produce spark all the time, and the batteries got weak, and people kept gluing their finger to the start button here, just trying to get it to go until it's completely dead. One person actually posted a video, and the smoke was just rolling out of here because their starter was fried at that point. Basically, if your ski doesn't start up in 5 or 6 seconds, you need to stop and figure out what the problem is. Do I have spark? Do I have fuel? And go from there. But back to the 997 issue. If someone had a weak battery in there, they've been grinding away at the starter, trying to get it to run or whatever, maybe the fuel system wasn't primed up, didn't have fuel going through all the lines, or they had one of those little dinky push button primers from the factory still that barely moved any fuel through to start the ski. Switch that stuff, make it so it's right. But when they didn't have all the right stuff, it'd be common for people to just keep cranking on the starter thinking eventually it's going to go, and sometimes it would, but mostly you're just burning up components. So if that happened, you had a weak battery ever on a 997, or a weak starter or bad cabling, whatever, it's going to heat up the stuff in the electrical box, and most likely you've fried a CDI. Now, they're expensive. Don't put a new CDI in and then run a cheesy battery and do it all over again. Do the right thing, get the best battery, and lithium ions can be mounted sideways, so you can get a monster size in here, and it'll turn the ski over super fast, and you'll have a healthy electrical system. Coils, ignition coils, yes, they can go bad. Those can be swapped out with other coils for testing purposes. They're not too expensive. On the newer 21 machines, we can actually plug right into a port that comes off of these ECUs, put it right onto a computer. We've got other videos up to show that, and we can actually do test spark right here. We can click it on the computer and it'll spark this cylinder, click it to the rear cylinder, it'll spark the rear cylinder, so then you know. Now in this 21 here, and anything with a long wire setup where these start-stop switch wires come through, there are times, just kind of like this one here, where this cable holder has broken and the cable's fallen down here. The cable can get clear back in here by the right engine mount where it's vibrating, and it'll rub through. And so then you're trying to start your ski and you're getting intermittent spark or no spark. Sometimes it's just that cable has rubbed through somewhere. This can happen for any wiring going through here anywhere on any of these systems. Here's your Hall effect sensor. For some reason, this thing was up here rubbing around on something sharp. It could cause the same issue. Back here, ECU wiring and so on. If something rubs around long enough in the bad spot, it can wear through. The other things that we saw with ECUs were the plugs. If you don't have dielectric grease in here, or the plugs that go in the holes here, or enough dielectric grease that it's coming through, you could get water down in here, and that can kind of short it out and make it not spark as well. You can check your wiring coming off of your ignition coils. There's a possibility that it's rubbed through on the head here or something, or on a bracket here or something on the head where it's going to ground out. That can also cause an issue. Some of these machines have a power button, and when you press the power button, it should light up, but you should also hear a click on the relay that's inside the fuse box here. Here we go. There's that click. So if you're not hearing that, it's not powering up the system, or it may not be powering up parts of the system that you need to be up and running to get it to produce spark. Another thing I see are when people buy a jet ski from a company that doesn't give them a lot of input as to how to hook stuff up, where to run cables and wires and so on. And so up inside here on this handle pull, on this one here, these cables are going to crisscross in here. What that does is that allows this thing to not rub, or not rub bad, or not pinch anything up inside here as you're going back and forth. If the wire here was run down here and your steering system's hitting your stopper and the wire's getting pinched between, it can wear through and then also have an issue where you have zero spark. The other thing we see sometimes, people run the wires down the wrong tubes. So if the wire goes down the left-hand side tube for your start-stop switch, that's incorrect. It's going to put it down here on this side. Now you're trying to run your wiring somehow around this exhaust and not have it be hot on this exhaust. Somewhere passing the battery in the engine, which vibrates around. And I've seen them where they go clear underneath the engine and come up back here in the corner, and they're stretched as tight as they can get to plug it in, and now it's rubbing on the bottom of the engine where you can't see it. So that's just improper setup. The start-stop switches on the Krash Industries jet skis should be going down the right-hand tube, running along that side, zip tied up here, or you could zip tie on the hose down here, just as long as it's up out of the way and not on metal, rubbing through metal. And let me touch on one more thing that a lot of people don't seem to understand. On the older skis especially, you had a stator that had pulsar coils, igniter coils, all kinds of stuff that made that told it when to spark and so on. On most of the newer machines these days, you have a pickup of some sort. The older 997s would have a magnetic pickup, which would go in through the side back here on the case and go in behind the flywheel. And if you switched from a standard CDI to a Zeal, the spacing had to be closer. And all this information is on our website, which I'll show you in a little bit. Now on this new 21, we're running a Hall effect sensor. So it's picking up a bunch of teeth that are on the back side of the flywheel. It has nothing to do with the starter teeth, but actually a signal teeth that go around and pass this sensor here. These things can be ohmed out. Once again, information's on our website for most of this stuff. The stator portion of this is basically these three wires here, and that's just your charging system. Has nothing to do with producing spark. It's just your charging system. Now I'm sure if some of these wires or the wires back here get rubbed through somehow on one of these black plates back here that are grounded or from the engine or something, then yeah, I'm sure if you take your main power wires and ground them out, you can probably kill your spark that way too. So that's why it's important to go through all your plugs and all your wiring and make sure nothing's rubbing down, nothing's sitting on top of the drive shaft as it spins around and getting rubbed through. Once again, that falls back on having wires going through the correct side of the ski, so that's not causing an issue. All right, let's go have a look at the website. All right, when you land on our website, click on Watercraft. If it's Krash specific, click on the Krash jet ski here, or you can go right to parts or tech support right here. Here's tech support. You're going to choose the ski that you have, and I'll start with the one that's most commonly that people, basic stuff, information's right here, but the one that people most commonly call on is 997 electronics because of those weak battery issues. Click into here. It's going to go through known issues and fixes, and then there's going to be a whole section over here on electrical and on the Zeal CDIs as well, and the wiring diagrams. Adding fuses to the electrical box. There's a video here because some wire colors changed. I mean, you have to have a little bit of mechanical knowledge to do this kind of stuff, electrical know-how and so on. If you don't, get it to a shop somewhere. Otherwise, you risk frying something else that's expensive, and you don't need to do that. Down here, no spark. This is going to come up with our main videos here. And then another link here, known issues and fixes. These are just most of this just small little things that need to be done, but there's a ton of data on here. So please go through it. I know people hate to read these days, but I don't have time to answer phones all day long and walk people through the same things over and over again. And unfortunately, a lot of people just do not understand what I'm talking about at all. I get a little too techie sometimes. I don't mean to, but I've been in the industry a long time, and it's just something that happens. Anyways, back to the regular page. You can click on the Krash again. There's a video library. There's tons of videos out here. Tech support videos all the way down this side. You're going to see CDI stuff, ECU stuff, and you need to know the difference. And then down here, spark testing, start-stop switch issues. There's a lot of data on here. And then once you get over onto our YouTube channel, you can, of course, at that point, go through the rest of the videos that we have too. So hopefully some of this will help some of you guys out with testing and data and whatever else that you're trying to look for on here. And yeah, please use our site. That's why we put this up here, is to help everyone get out on the water and have a great time. And let's go through the 23 and 5, PF5 files are right here. There's guys that ask about this all the time, the difference between the Haltech and the Micro Squirt. All the programs are up here. They're all free. All of our mapping files are here. You can download them for free. And then the connecting cables. Different connecting cables are used for them. We make them here or sell them here. And that can get you into the ECU. And then you can load up programs like Tuner Studio and so on that will run and help you diagnose all the issues that you have. So it's great stuff. You just gotta take a little time to read about it, learn about it, and get it up and running on your computer and plug your ski into it if you have one of the newer skis, and you got all your data right here. It's really killer. And then you got all your test functions right up here. You can go right in here and test mode, spark. You can test your coils and other things right here. It's super awesome stuff. So yeah, keep us in mind if you need other things too, wetsuits, boots, gloves, whatever. In the watercraft section, helmets, we sell all this stuff from all the major brands. We've been doing this stuff a long time. You'll get our best recommendations on everything. If I haven't answered the questions that you have here, please send me an email to sales@jspowersports.com or some link off the website here where it says contact, wherever the hell that's at. Somewhere on here. Yeah, get a hold of us that way. Always please give me your year, make, and model, submodel, and which ECU or CDI you have in there, because I need to know that right off the bat before I can answer any questions. But if you send me over the information there, I'll get to it when I can. I'll send you a link to the video or the tech support page or something that pertains to what you're asking, and do what I can to get you back on the water having fun. So appreciate the business, guys. You like what we put out on these videos, hit like and subscribe, and have fun riding.